Welcome to the only console smokes guide you'll ever need. If you're new here, my name's Pest. I'm number 8th Radiant on the console leaderboard, 12-time Radiant on PC, and Valorant coach for over 3 years now. By the end of this video, you'll know every attacking and defending smoke on every map, and have the confidence to carry like a Radiant. Let's get into it. Let's start out with attacking smokes on Ascent. Starting with B, market smoke, CT smoke, very standard. These are pretty much the only smokes that you want to use when doing a B execute. For post plant, you can definitely smoke stairs and lane, and that is valid, but make sure that no one is fighting up here because you don't want to separate yourself from your teammates and you want to fight with these people if they're up there. Mid control smoke, this is your bottom mid smoke, and this is your cat smoke. In the case that you are splitting A, this is a great smoke to split A and get you across tree, and then usually you're going to do a heaven smoke. This heaven smoke is way better than this heaven smoke, and this is one that I'm going to explain. The reason that this smoke is better than this smoke is that players can go out of the right here and get angles on site that none of these gen or other angles can trade easily. Whereas if the smoke is here, there is no difference from the smoke being here or not. If you're in this corner, you're not going to be able to trade this regardless of if the smoke is there or not. This acts as a smoke to the enemies, but also doesn't give them any extra room to play in and walk out heaven. And then lastly for the A hit is the tree smoke. Market smoke and tree smoke are your highest priorities to smoke if you only have one, for example, going into the site. And the reason being, there is a much higher likelihood of your teammates having their eyes forward rather than focused on the side, and there's way more off angles that people can get on these cross angles rather than up front. So generally any sort of cross angle that you can smoke is going to be more effective than any smoke that you're going to put in front of you. Cool, let's go over defensive smokes on Ascent. So to keep it simple, this one way is really good. This is pretty much the only way that you're able to get 2 layers of fighting in A, whereas you kind of have 3 different layers on B. So this one way is very crucial to give yourself some extra opportunities to get some picks before your back's against the wall. Your other general smoke would be here. Another tip with smokes, when you have a little funnel like this, push your smoke in just a little bit, and this forces the enemies to actually have to go forward and then out through the smoke instead of being able to just go in the smoke and then out a direction. And this just makes it easier for you to hold because generally the distance you have to hold is going to be a little bit narrower. You can't really do this in B main. However, this would be your B main smoke. These are pretty much your main smokes that you're going to be throwing on Ascent. You can smoke middle, but generally fighting mid, like we talk about in our map breakdown, just isn't really worth it. So these are pretty much your 3 main smokes that you're going to be throwing. Some other smokes you can throw on defense are something like this to hold tree, which is definitely okay. Potentially throw a smoke bottom mid to hold this, which is actually a decent crossfire if you have 2 people holding it. But other than these smokes, these 3 smokes are going to be the majority of what you're throwing. Sight smokes, this is one that I'm going to get in game for. Sight smokes are super useful to give yourself something to play around and something to finesse in and out of, to sit in and get an advantage from anyone coming in on you. Sight smokes are so effective because normally if I'm here, I pretty much have 1 peek, go back into cover, and at this point I'm getting overwhelmed already. Whereas if I have this sight smoke down, I can take this peek, I can now go back into hell, I can now go into this smoke, I can now cross over to gen, take another peek, and then go into the smoke, and now maybe I'm coming out this side, right? Because they're so focused on me being backside. You could just literally sit in your smoke and wait for somebody to come into it. There are limitless ways to play around this, and almost none of these options are available to you without a smoke like this. All right, I think that is Ascent. Next, we'll do Abyss. Starting with attack, let's do B first. Most important smoke is here. This is another cross angle like we talked about. The likelihood of having eyes forward is much more likely than running up looking to the right. And your second most important smoke is going to be here. Your textbook B smoke is going to be here. Because this angle is such a dagger angle and you have such a high risk of losing 1, 2, or even 3 people from this angle consistently, the likelihood of you losing people before this smoke is even valid is very high. So these are my default smokes on B. This is pretty much what I'm throwing every single time. For mid smokes, I'm usually smoking top right, and then I'm trying to fight these. I tend to only smoke one side of middle anyway. Same thing on Ascent. A, this is another non-traditional smoke. Heaven is pretty normal. This is the non-traditional smoke. The traditional smoke would be here. And this is kind of the same idea. In the case that you smoke here, it's very likely that this smoke is irrelevant, and you are going to lose 1, 2, or 3 people to these late swings because they're so hard to guard. These are pretty much your attacking smokes. In the case that you wanted to mid-split B, this would be your smoke. and you would probably use your mid smoke to scale middle. And in the case that you wanted to split A, which I think is a little bit tougher, if you go through heaven vent, you definitely can smoke this and then drop. And this would kind of be your other one if you wanted to split up mid, which I think is your more realistic play. Next, let's talk about defense. Starting with B, you have a pretty basic smoke here. This is your default smoke to defend B. Mid smokes, generally I recommend smoking top and then trying to isolate fights bottom. I go over my map breakdown, a really good play that my duo and I do where he hits the rope, I walk out mid, and we play really, really well off of each other's timings here. For defensive A smokes, you have two pretty basic options. You have the one way, which is really, really strong, but I find that people are not punishing this well enough. If you're holding this one way, you should get 1 or 2 kills every single time if they're walking through it. And then your basic A main smoke, which is valid. That's pretty much Abyss. I'll be honest, that's a really simple map. Next, let's go on to bind. Start attacking smokes on B. These ones are pretty simple. I don't see these messed up as much. Elbow and CT. The smokes we're throwing A are the things that I have problems with typically. I see a couple very bad no-no smokes. 1 no-no smoke, 2 no-no smoke, and 3 no-no smoke. You basically have 2 correct smokes on this map, and that is here and here. What I'm seeing a lot of, however, is this smoke and then a heaven smoke, which doesn't make any sense. You're just leaving your showers players to dry to just walk out into these angles, which makes no sense because they're almost always going to be smoked themselves. So what makes more sense is you smoke here, and this makes it easy for you guys to get out short, easy for you guys to get out showers. And the reason this isn't bad is because all you need in a post plant is U-Haul and showers. This is one of the most difficult post plants to break if you're playing it correctly. These are honestly your attacking smokes. I can't really think of any other smokes that you're realistically gonna throw. Defenders smoke on bind. So let's start with this shower smoke is insanely good, and it's good for 2 reasons. One, because showers control and holding this as a defender is really, really important, but this is one of the best funnels in the game. If you leave a little bit of this corridor sticking out in the smoke, they are funneled through literally one of the smallest choke points in Valorant map history. This one way is obviously very valid. You can also smoke this if you guys either get overrun or you're not fighting for showers. As far as B, you're not really smoking this or fighting for this. One thing you can do is smoke here and fight for long though. One smoke that you can throw in hookah is this, and this is a great smoke to play off of in crossfire. Otherwise, you have your 2 default smokes, and these are pretty much the smokes that you're going to be throwing on B. Next, we got Haven. Let's start out on attack. We'll start simple with C, here and here. I use this example of what not to smoke, which was here and here. These are just giving you more things to push in and out of to get control of the site, which generally just isn't good. So these are pretty much your 2 smokes. There's another idea for the CT smoke, which is here. This isn't terrible. However, you are going to have teammates die from people already walked out holding this, expecting this smoke. And therefore, this smoke is just always better than this smoke in ranked. In the case that you want to C split, your garage smoke would be here, and then your CT smoke would be the same. In the case that you're going B, you pretty much have 2 options for smokes as well, here and here. And A smokes, same thing. You have 2 smokes, heaven and CT. There's also another idea for the CT smoke like this. Same idea. There's going to be people that walk out, kill your teammates. Those are pretty much your attacker smokes, plain and simple. Let's go defenders smokes. So we'll start with C. This is going to be your default smoke. However, like we talked about, this smoke is super, super effective. You'll see honestly most Radiants on PC throwing this smoke for their teammates instead of this smoke even. This could be a garage smoke to hold garage. You could also do something like this if they're splitting C, and that is kind of a valid smoke. B smoke is pretty simple. This is a really important smoke actually to allow your teammates to rotate in and out of B. Defensive smokes for A. These are going to be your basic ones. Short, you have a couple different options. This is a valid smoke. This is also a valid smoke. So similar to showers on bind, this is another funnel that is one of the smallest choke points that you can combine with a smoke to get basically free kills every time. And these are pretty much your defensive smokes. There is an idea where you can smoke middle and kind of take control as a team, maybe 2 walking down middle and 1 peeking out of garage off their contact. Outside of that, I'm not sure there's much else that you would want to do. Next is Icebox. So this is actually a Viper map, and this is the only true Viper map that is in the rotation to where Viper is an adequate solo controller. Let's start off with attack on Viper, and then I'll also show you normal smokes because I know that Viper is not the most common. Your Viper wall for A is just going to be right across screens. Generally, this isn't bad. You're pretty much fighting all of sight and you want to do that. The Viper wall on B is pretty straightforward as well. Literally just going and cutting across all of this. Viper wall on B is actually better than normal smokes. In the case that you have a normal smoke agent, Omen Clove, etc., my opinion, you smoke snow, you smoke top every single time, and then your snow players then have the cover to go out and fight this as the bomb is going down. In the case case that you are going A, this is something that I just thought of, and I think this is kind of crazy, but you could definitely mimic the Viper Wall smokes. I'll be honest with you, I would much rather have these smokes than these smokes. And these are the smokes that I was going to tell you to do. Honestly, I think it's almost better to just not smoke here and then re-smoke this, and you just have like one smoke go out. As it's going down, you re-smoke it, and you pretty much just infinitely re-smoke this. The mid-split smoke, this smokes the KJ turret, which is really, really strong. You can also smoke something like this, which does smoke your cross into all of these different ways, including up into tube. They will have the cross through the window. This is normally where the Viper orb is going to be. So Viper's going to throw her orb middle pretty much every single round by default, and then she's going to put her wall kind of wherever her teammates are going to be posturing towards. So let's go to defense. Defense is a little bit weird. Your Viper wall is incredibly effective over here at A. This is honestly a majority of how you're ever going to hold down A without getting 1 or 2 picks in this area right here. How you could mimic this with smokes, which is definitely possible, is just dropping a smoke here and dropping a smoke here. Mid smokes, you don't really have a good option here, but you don't really need a mid smoke. This is kind of your only mid smoke, but for the most part, you just kind of have a KJ turret getting info here or a person getting info here. And if you have this cross, there's no way for them to get under tube, up tube, or through your mid to flank A, as long as you have this line right here. B smokes are a little bit interesting as well. This one way is super strong. You'll see a Viper orb a lot of times here. Something if you do actually want to try and hold space and you have like 2 people here, you could potentially smoke here and here and hold these. And this is actually kind of valid. We are wrapping up Icebox and we are going to get into Lotus. Let's talk about offense first. Let's talk about A. A is a little bit weird. The first smoke that you want to throw typically is this. In theory, you could throw something like this. However, I do think punishing this peak is really strong. And then your second smoke is going to be heaven, and that's pretty much that. This B split smoke is really, really strong. You just go straight through to B. These people's rotate is way longer than yours. Your B smokes, this is your most important smoke in my opinion, because it's the cross angle. You have a much higher likelihood of people's eyes being forward rather than scaling forward and looking right. In my opinion, heaven is the next most important thing to smoke, because generally 2 to 3 people with eyes forward every single time, the likelihood of someone actually swinging out and getting value here is much lower than these other positions. Therefore, I think these are your best smokes. Your C smokes are here and here. This is pretty much 100%. Because post plan is kind of rough unless you have bomb down for mound, you can double fight out water or double fight out spawn. You do want to have a buddy though. I see the biggest issue with getting aggressive on C is I see one person go CT, one person water. And this is where issues arise, because if you don't both individually pop off, you pretty much throw the round. So those are your attacking smokes. Let's go to defender smokes. We can start with C. This one way is super strong to hold. Otherwise, this would be your C smoke. B is pretty basic. Usually, you're just going to smoke here. For A, you do have an Omen one way. On this, you also just have a standard smoke here. Both are valid. Outside of that, there is also a one way in tree. You can also just throw a standard smoke. This is an okay smoke to throw as a defender. This is a good A smoke as well. Outside of that, those are pretty much your defender's smokes. Okay, on to sunset. Starting off on offense, this is going to be your first B smoke, and this is going to be your second B smoke. Do not throw this smoke, please. This is a defensive smoke. This is only hurting you more than helping you pretty much every single time. The reason that you want to throw the smoke like this and not like this for market is this extra angle generally just causes issues. The easiest way to deal with this is just throw a smoke like this, and there's really not a big downside to that. Also, you can usually get some really easy spam kills spamming this area because people tend to kind of gravitate towards this area anyway. In the case that you want to split B, these are going to be your B smokes. However, you want to split top mid. Usually you're going to go 1 through B main, 4 through mid. You're going to smoke top mid and you're going to smoke here. In the case that you want to fight mid and you're not directly B splitting, usually you're going to smoke top mid and then you're going to fight door. If they close it, you're going to break it. You're going to look for these fights and see if they give them to you. Attacking smokes on A are pretty simple. Generally, people do get these right, which is good. These are pretty much your 2 smokes for A. That is pretty set in stone. Let's talk about defenders smokes. B, pretty simple. Don't really have to do anything else. Your mid smoke is pretty much always going to be this. Your A smokes are going to be this one way. Super, super effective if you're holding it correctly. Most people are not going to push through that. If you want to play inside of your smoke, just throwing a smoke down here is 100% valid. You could technically play to hold a smoke like this. You'd probably want to have 2 people here, 1 person here, 1 person here. That is something that you can do. This would probably be a more traditional smoke to play off of. Same idea though. You have someone here, someone here. You can also smoke something like this. And generally, if you have these 2 smokes combined, it is pretty uncomfortable for the attackers to just kind of run at you. I actually think those are all of your basic smokes on Sunset.